There is a question that comes up many times in a person's life, or it may come up in therapy, or it may arise when we approach silence, or sometimes at night, and that question is, am I really being who I want to be, or who I really am? Or perhaps am I being who I learned I was supposed to be in this life? Carl Rogers devoted much of his life to thinking about this question. In 1961, he published a book on becoming a person, where he proposes something that is actually very simple, truly very simple, but is profoundly transformative. The human being is not something that needs to be fixed. It is not an object that is going to be defective. The human being is a living process, says Rogers, something that is always in motion. And so, today, I truly want us to explore together in depth what it really means to finally become a fully realized person in this world. The actualizing tendency. For Rogers, all human beings share something that is essential, something present in every human being, which is an internal force that pushes us to grow, that drives us to develop, to unfold, to bring forth the being that we are. Rogers called this the actualizing tendency. The actualizing tendency is not an external motivation. It is not a matter of discipline. It is not a constant effort that one has to keep making. It is something much deeper. For Carl Rogers, it is something powerful. The person already has within themselves the necessary resources, not only to understand themselves, but also to unfold, to be able to change. So the question is, what do I have to do to change? That question is not well formulated. I would say that in light of what I am presenting, the question should be, what conditions do I need so that what is already within me can emerge? Emerge as if I think of a seed which we do not push, we cannot rush it to come out, to sprout. We can only create an environment for it to emerge, unfold, and grow. So Rogers proposes the three pillars that have to do with the relationship, because Rogers discovers something that is key. Growth does not depend, in the case of therapeutic work, on techniques, but on the quality of the relationship that is established between people. And there are three attitudes that are fundamental, not only in therapy, but also in our basic education from childhood, in teaching, in what we were taught in everyday relationships. One of them is congruence. To be congruent is to be authentic. That what I feel, what I think, and what I say all go in the same direction. That is being authentic. Of course, it doesn't mean saying everything, nor does it mean being impulsive and talking about this all the time. Rather, it's something more internal. It's not betraying oneself. Because when we wear masks all the time, something in us starts to harden. Congruence, on the other hand, opens up a space, and where there is space, change can happen. Unconditional positive regard. This point is central for Rogers. To accept is not to agree with everything the other person does or says. It means not placing conditions on the other person's worth. I don't like your behavior. That's not the same as saying you are worthless or you are only worthy when you do this. When a person feels accepted, their defenses will come down. And when their defenses come down, what is genuine emerges. Empathic understanding, which has to do with empathy, is not about advising, it's not about explaining, it's not. Comparing is also something subtle. It's about trying to enter the other person's world as if I were that person myself, but of course, without losing myself in the other. I approach it as if I were the other, but I can't lose myself in them. That is, internally, I want to understand how this is for you, what you're saying. The process of change for Rogers does not happen in a single leap. Change is not a leap. It is a path that must be traveled, a journey. This journey goes from rigidity to fluidity. When someone begins this change through a process, which we do a lot in choice in the early stages, the person is very far from their emotions, completely distant. They talk about themselves as if they were talking about someone else, right? They are not connecting with themselves. And whenever there is a problem, the problem is generally placed outside. Then something different starts to appear because doubts begin to arise, uncomfortable emotions start to surface, contradictions begin to emerge. And finally, in the more advanced stages of the process pursued in Joyce, feelings are experienced in the present. And there is no longer such a need to be constantly defending oneself, putting up defenses. The person becomes an experience in motion. Obviously not perfect, but alive. We say this, right? A change, a process of change, doesn't make people perfect, but it makes them feel alive. People who generally function in an integrated way, Rogers talks about this ideal, have a sense of direction, and that direction has important characteristics such as leaving the person, thank you, with a feeling of being more open to experience. People who have fewer defenses, those individuals who listen much more deeply and attentively, who live fully in the present moment and do not find themselves becoming stuck or trapped in the past or the future. There is a profound trust in their own organism, as it clearly appears to be the case, like an internal compass. They experience a significantly diminished requirement for external approval, and a profound and powerful sense of personal freedom begins to emerge, as the person lives it from a place of complete and total responsibility for their own life. A more creative and flexible way of approaching the various challenges of life appears. There are some ideas that I would like you to take with you. There is a very famous phrase by Rogers that said, "When I accept myself just as I am, then I can begin to change some things. I can change." Acceptance, the acceptance of who I am, is not the end of the road, it's the beginning. When I accept myself, I begin my journey of unfolding, of change. Because the self is not something fixed. And it's important to understand this. It's not something fixed, you can't put a label on it. It's something that is being made, that is being formed. And the good life for Rogers, and I completely agree, is not constant happiness when someone goes through a process. It's a direction one takes toward greater authenticity, toward more freedom, and toward internal coherence. Becoming a person is not about becoming someone either, right? It's about stopping living from what we should do or should be, to allow what truly exists within us, what we are, to emerge. When we align ourselves to be in contact with what we are, with the experience of who we are in this moment, the process appears. And that process, even though sometimes it makes us uncomfortable, even though it hurts, is profoundly human. This is the approach of our beloved Choice program, which supports people and their families throughout the entire journey. I am deeply grateful that you made it this far, and truly, if you are listening and you feel identified or longing for this, I hope that you can begin a journey in this direction. Best regards.